2026 is going to be an awesome year. We got some pretty cool stuff coming up. First off, we got Foundations of Recovery. This is our flagship program. We're starting it in January.
This is for anyone, man, woman, or couple who wants to come and reclaim their heart from shame, trauma, and betrayal. We start off with an education on all sorts of principles, give you the common language. We feed you from a fire hose in terms of all things recovery.
It is such a great start to recovery. And we get at the roots of things, Tyler. This isn't like any other program. Like, this is our healing journey in process, and Foundations is where we begin.
If you look at the value that you're getting there to kick off a good recovery with all of the right education, all of the right language, and a team to get you started while also being directed by Brannon and myself through the whole process, what a deal.
So if you're interested, if you're struggling, if you've been wanting to do something for a long time, jump into this. This only comes around every so often, and we would love to have you there.
Click the link in the description to sign up for it. And to make it even sweeter, we're also including a raffle for a free pass to the Radiant Dawn retreat. Anyone who signs up for Foundations will be added to the raffle for that free Radiant Dawn pass. If you're a man and you sign up for Foundations, your name still gets entered, and you can give that pass away if you win it to any woman that you want to.
So what you're saying, Tyler, is if you sign up and participate in Foundations, you could possibly go to Radiant Dawn for free?
That's exactly what I'm saying, which is crazy because Foundations by itself is already an insane value.
Man, I sound so salesy. But it actually is awesome. So come to Foundations. And even if you don't come to Foundations, sign up for Radiant Dawn. It's beyond therapy, the best healing experiences that you can have.
Click the link below and come join us.
Hey guys, this is Brannon, the host of the Ask Brannon Anything show. This is the show where we take the most awkward, difficult, challenging questions that are keeping you stuck in your relationships and stuck in your addictions. We break them down, we discuss them, we validate you, we give advice, and we empathize. And most importantly, we help you find truth so you can get unstuck. If you have a question, whatever it may be, go to brannonpatrick.com and submit a question there for the show. All right, you guys, I got one of my good friends, Tony, here. And, every time I talk to you, Tony, it's like I think we have more and more in common.
Yeah.
So we're both workaholics a little bit. And
I'm trying to grow a beard, if you can see.
I'm trying to grow a beard because I have a beard, yes.
Exactly.
But we're both passionate about therapy. And so we're therapists at heart, but we're also entrepreneurs. We're podcasters. I think we're trying to help people on a bigger scale. And when I first talked to you, Tony, I was like, man, that guy's cool. Like he's doing a lot of what I like to do, except for he's doing too much therapy.
I know. I think of that. I remember when we were going to record on my podcast, we talked like 30 or 45 minutes before we recorded. And I felt like by the end, you were my therapist. And I was, what do you think, Brannon? Yeah. And I think it's funny when you even talk about the workaholic thing. I changed careers at 32. I was in computer software for the first decade. And I was anything but a workaholic. And so it just kind of speaks to that. When you find something you're really passionate about, it's hard. I want to get in the office earlier. I want to write more. I want to record more. I want to see more people. When I was in software, I wanted to see as little as I could do as possible and still make as much money.
Punch the clock, be done with it, and move on with life, right?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, and I think, I am passionate about what we do. And, one thing we're going to talk about a little bit later is addiction. And both of us are in the trenches, really, really trying to figure that out and help people as much as possible. And I think you got to have that energy behind it. And so yeah. But before we do that, it's the Ask Brannon Anything show, and I got one question that I really want to throw past you and get your take on it. So the question is, I'm not on the same page with religion with my partner. How do we grow together while practicing different beliefs? So what do you think, Tony?
Oh, okay. I don't know if you saw, I just shifted back in my chair and now I'm right back up. I'm ready. I'm going to calm myself down so I don't talk too fast, which is what is often the case. So I absolutely love this topic. This is one that I've done a couple of episodes of my podcast, The Virtual Couch, on this. And I, when I first got into therapy, I did my internship with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And so,
Okay.
one of the areas they trained me on, this was 15 years ago, was, at the time, it was just called faith crisis. And
Yes.
so, I did a fair, I would see maybe somebody once a week or once every couple of weeks. And it was their individual struggles where they were going through a faith crisis or a faith journey. And then I felt like the more I got into the addiction work, and just super quick, and I think we talked maybe about this when you were on my podcast, but I felt like we can teach the behavioral things all day long, but I think that addiction springs from these unmet needs or these voids of,
Yes.
and I kind of circled them into helping somebody be a better parent, helping somebody be a better spouse, helping somebody get their health a little more dialed in, and really find a career they're passionate about. And then the fifth one I always talked about was they need to feel like they're comfortable with their faith. And so then that led me to kind of more exploration of how to help people that are having these individual faith crises.
Mm-hmm.
And then I found that then, using that same model to help addicts, now I'm starting to do more marriage therapy, with the emotionally focused therapy, or EFT modality, because that is a game changer. And then all of a sudden I'm realizing, oh my goodness, there's a lot of couples that are really struggling because one of them has maybe gone through a faith journey and the other one is still very firm in their their convictions. And I realized, wow, that plays a bigger role in even the person turning back to an addiction. Yes. Or the couple like not being able to communicate better. So I guess it's a super long way to say, thank you for asking this question. Because I love talking about this.
Yes. Yeah. So help me understand, Tony, if you were to get into this, how do you help a couple navigate that?
Yeah.
Where do you start?
So I think it's, if you kind of go to the couples modality or model of emotionally focused therapy, the EFT model, that, that one is really about we want to be heard. And so we've gotten in these patterns, these negative patterns where we go in and lead with hey, here's what you're doing that I don't like. And, and then it's followed by and now I want you to listen. And I feel like we now know that when you go in and say, here's what I don't like, we've already put that person back on their heels. They've got the fight or flight response going, and the game's already rigged for communication.
So Tony, you're kind of saying, like, if I'm having a faith crisis, then it's I'm going through a lot of emotion around it, right?
Yeah.
It's very vulnerable. It's very kind of I'm exploring some things that are scary for me. And then if a spouse shows up and says, I don't like what you're doing, it doesn't really help or work.
No, we're starting off with this, our amygdala's all fired up, our fight or flight chemicals, cortisol's flowing. And man, I don't want to give away the secret sauce here, but I'm doing a podcast in a couple of weeks on, are you familiar with the term reactance? Do you know this?
No, I'm not.
I didn't know this either. And I had to go do a big training a couple of weeks ago. And I literally got on and, my wife jokes that I'm very good at Googling. So I was just Googling, what I wanted to find some cool article about why when we're met with this, here's what you need to do, why we inevitably push back, even if it's something that's kind of something that we want to do. And so, I stumbled upon a gold mine of this concept called psychological reactance. And in reactance, I've got a nice Google Doc here from this presentation I did, but psychological reactance is it's the instantaneous reaction we have to being told what to do. So, and it's changed, like even the last, I know it's been 2 weeks that I figured this part out, but just to watch that, even when we're telling someone with a faith crisis or any of this stuff of like, hey, I need you to listen to me. I need you to understand that our partner is having this psychological reactance.
Because you're telling them what to do.
Yeah. And I'll tell you the kind of the stuff that you stumble upon, if you look at this reactance, they kind of went into this study at one point about looking at the courtroom setting. And when a judge says, all right, this evidence is inadmissible, forget all about it. Right.
Right.
One of these studies showed that if you took half of those jurors and the judge spent 10 minutes lecturing them on why you can't use inadmissible evidence, and you took the other half and the judge didn't say anything, they looked at that group that was told, here's what you need to do. And it was over 70% of them then used that inadmissible evidence in their ruling.
In their decision.
Just despite the authority figure or the judge. So,
Man, us humans are all like toddlers at heart, aren't we?
Okay, it's so funny you said that, because even the when you talk about reactance, in business they call it change resistance, and in parenting they call it the terrible twos. I mean, it really is. It's just this reactive tendency. So I know I kind of keep going back before we go forward, but I feel like that's such an important concept to know of when we go to somebody about a faith crisis, and if we're even telling them, look, I need you to understand that this is what I'm going through. We've got that reactance going, right? Or if the partner is, if the person going to somebody with a faith crisis says, hey, I got to open up to you, I got to share how this has been difficult, and that person and their partner immediately responds with I can't believe you've been even looking at this stuff. I can't believe you've been reading these things. You need to not do it. Then here comes reactance, and that's that fight or flight. So, that's, I think when you say, what's the first step? It's like, man, being able to have a safe conversation.
Which I think is hard because, there's just so much behind it. So for the partner who's like, oh my gosh, you've been reading what, and you're thinking what, and so now their whole kind of world could shift if their spouse says, look, I don't want to be a part of this religion anymore. And so I can see why the reaction, like, hey, what are you doing? Don't do that. Yet it's not the really effective thing to do. So it's regulating that emotion, having a more soft approach, and then opening up for listening and understanding, right? It's
funny because it goes back to some of the stuff that I really appreciated that from your podcast of when somebody eventually comes forth with a disclosure, they oftentimes feel that relief, right? Yes. And then their partner all of a sudden is blindsided, and I think sometimes
highly emotional,
right? And we don't even realize that the person that just came even to their partner and says, I got to talk about where I'm at with my faith. It's not like they just a couple of days ago felt kind of weird about, what Sunday felt like, and they decided to go on this, to let their partner know. It's been usually years in the making.
Yes.
Right. And it takes a lot for them to kind of, and so sometimes I like to try to, even when a couple comes in and this is what we're going to talk about, it's just just appreciate the fact that this person it feels like they need to share this with their partner, that they feel like this is important enough and I care about you enough that I really need to express
to this. Open up and express it. And they're really, it is an act of vulnerability and being open. Yeah. When they go to their partner.
Yeah. So, from there, are you pretty familiar? I think we talked a little bit about the James Fowler stages of faith.
I am familiar with it, but not pretty familiar. Okay. Somewhat. So enlighten us, Tony.
I love this. So James Fowler, I think he was a Methodist minister, but he was also taught psychology. I forget the university. I should have been a little more prepared with that. But, and it was in the 80s. And so he did a tremendous amount of research around basically this concept of what's called all-encompassing belief systems. And so, and I love it. You can think of any religion basically as an all-encompassing belief system, where if you follow the tenets of this religious system, you will basically make it to the
heaven.
End. Yeah, exactly. Whatever that looks like, right?
Yes.
And usually the all-encompassing belief system comes complete with here's some prepackaged values and beliefs, and we believe in the LDS
what we
faith,
follow,
right? Yeah, exactly. Yes. So what he does, and I love the way he lays this out, is he has it broken down into 6 stages, and they kind of model, if you're a psychology nerd, probably like we are, it's Piaget's stages of kind of the life cycle, or Kohlberg stages. And I'll try to slow down with this one. It's so fun to talk about. So stage 1 faith, he calls it intuitive and projective. And so I think that this one's usually, I think it's like 7 years and younger. And he says that projective faith, this is a time where preschool children, where they get fantasy and reality mixed together. And during this stage, our basic ideas about God are just handed to us from our parents. So the projective faith, in my view, I always kind of tell people in my office, projective faith is kids are playing on the ground with their toys, and parents project their faith onto them. Hey kids, there's a God, right?
Here you go.
Here you go. There you go. And the kids are like, okay, can I get back to playing? It's kind of, but they're starting to become aware. Yes. So then we move into that, and I love stage 2. Stage 2 is called mythic and literal, and that's kind of anywhere from that 3 to 12 or so. And so mythic and literal is, they're trying to understand the world in more logical ways, but they generally just accept stories told to them by their faith community or by their parents. and they do it in very literal ways. So this is where I do the Easter Bunny and Jesus and the Tooth Fairy and Batman, and they're all real. They're they're mythic, they're literal.
We believe.
Right?
Yes.
We believe.
Santa does go down the chimney.
Well, and that's why I say what's interesting is, if you really do a deep dive on this concept of stages of faith and just the way that our belief system sometimes can be challenged, is as soon as we find out that, wait, Santa's not real, we're like, okay, but Tooth Fairy, check. A Batman, how about that one? Jesus, right? Easter Bunny, all right, we still got a few of those, and and it's almost like by the time we're done with almost that version of, I was going to say like game, but I feel like that's sacrilegious, or if I was going to say musical chairs, or but it's like now we still have Jesus, or we've got our God,
right.
And so
we have what's left over that we're supposed to continue to actually believe in. Yes.
Yeah. And so then stage 3 is where stuff gets real, as the kids say. So this one's synthetic and conventional, and this one says that most people move on to the stage as teenagers, and at this point their life has kind of grown to include a lot of different social circles, and they kind of have this desire and need to put it all together. And so at this point, they want to adopt some all-encompassing belief system. So, and typically it's the one that is handed to us by our parents, or the one that we've kind of grown up hearing about. So now, and I love this, and in Fowler's Stages of Faith, he says, however, they have a hard time seeing outside of their box.
Okay.
And so I love introducing the concept of not a negative view of a box, but now your belief system, your all-encompassing belief system, fits in a box.
Yes.
Here's everything you need in that box. And so then at that time, though, people maybe have a hard time seeing, that outside of that box, and they don't even recognize that they're necessarily inside a belief system. They're just doing life,
Tony, you're describing my life.
It's all of ours, right?
What I've been through, yes.
It's all of ours. And so I feel like, and that's, and the key there is at this stage, now all of a sudden authority is really placed in individuals or groups that represent our beliefs. So now we've also got, within the box, we've got a hierarchy, and this is where we look to our leaders for answers and that sort of thing. And all right, and I'll be this is fun, because I usually do go a little more generic on my podcast, but when we start talking about, so here's where I say that when people then come at times, I say they bump into the sides of the box. Like maybe some of their experiences, their beliefs, their own private experiences don't quite really easily fit in the box comfortably.
Yes.
And this is where I'll have, maybe a spouse, they did everything that they thought they were supposed to do. Went to BYU, they went on their mission, they married their sweetheart, and then that person has an affair, or
like that's not, you're supposed to be blessed and not experience.
That doesn't
belief system they have, and
right. That's not in that all-encompassing belief system. That's not in a tidy in the box. Or they one of their kids comes out as gay, or any of these things, and all of a sudden they're like, okay, where does that fit in the box? And so
I want to give you one. So like when I started treating sex addiction, I was just doing my thing. I was late 20s. And all of a sudden I started hearing all these stories of bishops and leaders giving horrible advice and counsel to couples. And it just rocked my world a little bit, because in my box, it was like, no, they know what's going on exactly. They're following the Spirit. And it was like, whoa, maybe not like this. Maybe they get it wrong sometimes. And that was an example of me bumping against a box. It was like,
amen. For real. This is why I love you're doing this podcast, because this is such a nice format to talk about this, because we both, you set it up perfect. We want to help. We mean well, right?
Yes.
So that's so good, because then I kind of feel like, in what typically happens is people, when they're bumping into the box, the sides of the box, and they go to their authority, their leader, and here's, I'm gonna be real, and I know this one better than anyone.
Yes.
The advice they most likely get is just, hey, pray and read your scriptures more. Like you're doing things wrong, right?
Yes, exactly. Yes.
And so a person can only try that model for so long without, and this is where I always say it starts introducing whenever we get to the what's wrong with me story in my brain, that's where I'm like, hey, nothing, like you're trying, right? And this is where I love, and I won't go too big into this one, but the whole model that I love for individual therapy is acceptance and commitment therapy. And that one's the one that says you're the only person that's ever walked the face of the earth that has all of your private experiences, nature and nurture and DNA and birth order and abandonment, rejection. And so you're having the feelings and thoughts and emotions you have because you're a human,
Right.
And, right?
Yes.
Oh, so bless their hearts, but sometimes just little more prayer, a little more scripture study doesn't address those messy parts.
Well, it actually, and we could totally go off on a tangent.
I know, right?
It actually fuels shame because
Yes.
it's like now I'm reading my scriptures and I'm praying and I'm still masturbating and looking at porn and so I must really be bad now because I'm doing what my leader's telling me. It's not getting better. And so it really rocks their world. So
it does. So, and again, you're right. We could do so much on this. And as a matter of fact, I might as well like kind of say now, I mean, this is my next program I'm releasing is working with faith crisis and faith journey. So, I mean, this is such a passion of mine that, I don't know, stay tuned.
Yes.
But so then when people bump into the box long enough, then they jump outside of the box and they move into stage 4. And stage 4, it's called individuative and reflective. And this is a very difficult stage. Fowler said it was typically done and it begins in young adulthood. And it's when people start seeing outside of that box and recognizing that there are other boxes. And at this time, a lot of times the stage 4s, it's a rough one. It's a scary one. It's one that's usually full of a lot of anger because they look back at their stage 3. So
there's some resentment back towards being put in that box. Yes.
Yeah. And so they critically examine their beliefs and then they kind of start to, they become he says, disillusioned with their former faith. And I think the kicker is when stage 3 folks look at stage 4 people as apostates, as blasphemers, and stage 4 people look at stage 3 people as like, no, you don't get it. Like I finally,
like kind of ignorant and naive a little bit. Like you're still in that box. Like I'm beyond that.
Right. And the battle ensues. And this is where I like to throw out these things. Like there's a little bit of the burn the village down behind them story, there's just, it's such a butting of heads. Talk about that reactance we talked about earlier.
Yes.
So my goal in life, I feel, is getting people to the next stage, which is stage 5. And stage 5 is called.
But hang on, Tony, for a second. That butting of heads, really, it comes back to the question that we asked, right? That's where a lot of couples can have that friction, right? Where one wife is still in the box, or wife or husband, one spouse is still in the box. The other spouse is starting to head into that 4th stage, right?
Okay, I'm so glad you brought us back because that is what I get in my office. If I'm working with an individual, they're in stage 4 and they're basically saying, I feel like they're saying, okay, old man, just tell me to, read another talk or say my prayers more or scripture, and then that'll make it easy and I'm out.
Right,
so
right,
I feel
right.
like that's the same thing when I get a couple in there, whoever happens to be in stage 4. I mean, I feel like they're almost just saying, hey, just make this easy, right? Because it's a lot easier to just say, screw all you guys. I'm mad. I'm angry, because
tell me to be more righteous and then I can give you the middle finger.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm out. And
Matter of fact, I've been practicing this last night. I'm going to leave. I'm going to slam the door. I'm going to make a very dramatic exit,
and be the victim of your rigid, ignorant beliefs. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm glad you reset with that. So then stage 5 it's called conjunctive faith. And there's a key part here maybe we'll circle back to, but Fowler said it's rare for people to reach this stage before midlife. And we'll talk about that. But here's the point where, and I love the way that this is phrased. This is the point where people begin to realize the limits of logic and they start to accept paradoxes in life. So they see life more as a mystery. And they often then can return to sacred stories and symbols, but maybe without being as stuck inside of a theological or rigid box.
Yeah.
Right? And so stage 5 is a place of love. It's a place of empathy. It's a place of understanding. To get to 5, you get to say, man, bless your heart. Stage 4, I hear you. I feel you. That's frustrating. Stage 3, it's like, hey, my job is not to pull them out of the box or fix them.
Let them be where they are.
Let them be where they are. Yeah. Yeah. And so stage 5 is a beautiful place to be.
Yeah. I hear in stage 5, it's like wisdom. It's, and if both people can kind of get to stage 5, whatever their beliefs are or whatever then they can have that space for each other and that trust and that safety in their relationship. Right.
Yeah. And I think what you see again all the time is at the core of like addiction are people feeling that they can't be honest or open. And so I feel like they are hiding things. It is about isolation. So, the marriage has to get to a point where it really can be, man, I hear you with stage 3 stuff. And I'm grateful that that resonates for you. I struggle with that, certain parts of it.
Yes.
And if I can't talk openly about it, then I'm basically I'm going back to this shame-based what's wrong with me story in my brain. And we're seeing that one doesn't work very well.
Yeah. Disconnection, isolation in your own marriage. And
yeah. And I think the hard thing too is and you nailed it. We're still going to have, usually when this component's coming into my office, one is in 3 and one's either in 4 or 5. And it's hard. But so, I mean, we're trying to just kind of have the conversations,
So,
have a safe place. Yeah.
Is what you're doing when you bring up EFT.
Yeah.
Because I think that is the answer. I think you're really nailing it there. Is, it's helping the couple, not necessarily force them along these stages.
Right. Right.
But it is for them. It's helping them get educated, understand the stages, so that they can still connect and understand each other no matter what stage they're at. Right.
Absolutely. And I love that, because the EFT part of that is I feel like then when people are in that stage 4, that burn the village down part, it's like, I'm going to tell you all the things that I've learned and that you're still believing. And that is, here, talk about it again, reactance. That doesn't go well, right? If I can get somebody into stage 5, then it's like, hey, let's just kind of take a breath, and let's just kind of go back and focus about things that we do have in common. And let's kind of raise that, couples baseline, so we can have more of these conversations. Your job is not to destroy your partner's faith. One of the cool things I love about EFT is you're just trying to be heard, and you're trying to understand. You're not trying to knock the other person's reality down.
Yeah.
Right?
But Tony, I think what it requires though is it's kind of interesting, because we're talking about a faith crisis. I think if your spouse has a faith crisis, one of the healthiest things you can do is to actually have faith, which is to have faith that if you don't have faith that it's all going to work out the way God wants it to, then you're going to show up in fear and control and force, as opposed to backing up, being a good place to reflect and to listen and explore with your partner, to help them flush a lot of things out. That requires letting go of a lot of fear, relying on your relationship with God, and letting your spouse go through this. Correct?
Yeah, and knowing that you nailed it, and knowing that they're going to have their own, again, they call them private experiences, just like you did, and theirs are based on their nature and nurture and DNA, birth order, all that as well, just like yours are. Right. And so they have to kind of go with their own process of unfolding as well. And I feel like that becomes an opportunity to connect. A couple of kind of caveats I know that get in the way is, first of all, when somebody is going through a faith journey, faith crisis, they've read a lot of things. They've done a lot of things that they feel like, oh my gosh, my partner would be so angry with me. Or if they're coming from a stage 4, they feel like, you know what, I'm going to tell her whether she wants to know or not. And so I do feel like sometimes that's the part that's a little too much at first. And we kind of have to get some rules established of, like you said, we're going to be okay. We're going to kind of double down on love and being able to just communicate. And my job is not to destroy one's faith, because I feel like that is a scary thing. Yeah.
Tony, as you're talking, I'm just like, to have someone like you, like somebody who has some specialized knowledge and understanding to help a couple navigate through that, I think it is so helpful. As opposed to a couple going at this alone, trying to figure this out. So I guess what I'm saying is, if they go to any old therapist, or if they go to a lot of times people find their therapist through their religion, and what they'll find is a therapist who will side with one person or the other person. And what you're really saying is, a couple will come in and they're ready to have a reason to slam the door, and but you don't play that game. You don't engage in that, don't take sides, but help them come together, and help them learn how to navigate it, right?
Oh, now I feel like I had no intention of going big on this when we start. But I mean, this is why I'm so passionate about this, and why I'm getting an online program together, because not only is it that important, but I've worked with clients that have gone to maybe someone that has been through their own faith crisis and maybe has never quite got to a 5, and then that's one where almost the therapist is over validating, where it's like, oh yeah, I hear you. I've read all that stuff too. I don't know what you're doing staying, she is crazy, or that sort of thing. Yes. And I feel like the stage 5 stuff, and I just have to tell you, this is one of my favorite parts, is when I'm working with an individual even, and they're like, you know what, I don't even want to tell you the things I've read. I don't want to rock your world. And for years now, I've been saying, I've read it all. Like, honestly, please, I want to hear one thing different. Please, like, tell me, you know. And they're
I'd
like,
love a
okay,
morsel of something new.
something. They're like, I don't know, have you heard about this? I'm like, oh yeah, and this, and okay. What about this? You know, and
Right.
and I think it's so liberating to be able to say, yeah, this is what stage 5 looks like. You know, and it feels so good. It is of Christ-like love and unconditional love, and I'm telling you, our brains are so wired for path of least resistance that's why it's going to try to get you in stage 4 and hit the exit ramp, because that is easier. But man, if you can get through that to stage 5, it is the best, more connected place. But I know I was going to say this earlier. The hard part is we have to be stage 5 again, very aware of our stage 3 brothers and sisters are going to still say, okay, well, what, you just can pick and choose your belief? Oh, it's like, bless your heart, you know.
Right.
Until you kind of been through it, you know, I hear you. And no, I'm not trying to change your beliefs, but, you know, and it just has to come from such compassion and empathy. Right. And I have to very quickly, there is a stage 6. It's called universalizing faith. And it just says few people reach that stage because at that point they're living their lives in full service of others without worries or doubts. And that one's reserved to, you know, Jesus, Mother Teresa, Buddha, Gandhi.
Like enlightenment.
You know? I'll never get there because I get super mad still when I'm waiting for my food or whatever. You know? So,
I don't know, Tony. I think you're on your way.
If you saw me at Red Robin last night, you would know I am not close to stage 6. I wanted those fries. I wanted them right now. It was not very pretty. So that stage, I mean, I hope that answers the question, though. I love those stages of faith. I do. And I was going to say real quick, one of the things I think is important here too is, and I'm not saying this from our job is to judge others with this, but I think when you even have awareness of, all right, maybe I've got more of a stage 3 stake president, or maybe a stage 3 bishop, you know. I mean, because I think that's a part, I'm sure you see it. I see it
all the time.
The time. And that's where you go back to what you said about a leader giving some very interesting advice. You know, I've had, it's a couple hundred emails later now from even just my Stages of Faith podcast from church leaders that have identified, you know, hey, thank you. I'm a stage 5. It feels nice to feel like I can do that. I've had a couple of them that have said they don't say I'm a stage 3. The problem is if they're stage 3, they don't know they're stage 3 because they think they're just doing all they can. And so those are the ones I get the emails that say, hey, way to promote apostasy, you know. I'm like, hey, bless your heart.
Totally. Like this conversation we're having, if you're in that stage 3, you might be very uncomfortable with it because faith crisis in and of itself is problematic. It's, you know, you get back in the box, like don't talk about, you know, it being okay that somebody is in this faith crisis. And so, but at the same time, I've had bishops, I've had leaders who I would definitely say are in a stage 3. Mm-hmm. And I'm not better than them. I'm not. No, I appreciate their. I appreciate their, you know, willingness to want to be good and to want to be righteous and to want to do the good thing. And they're so kind of stuck in the box. I mean, I live in Utah County, Tony. I mean,
I see the walls around you. No.
Yes. But you know, good for them. They're living their best life the way they feel is right. And I applaud them for that. And they're on their own journey, you know, and
absolutely.
And I don't know, maybe that's my stage. I'd like to think I'm in a stage 5. Maybe that's my stage 5 speaking.
Yeah.
To not be threatened by their box. Right.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I've got these, deep, psychological, untested theories of, you know, in acceptance and commitment therapy. There's a part of that where you go through I've got this little chart of about 60 different values, and you kind of sit with somebody one-on-one and you identify what are maybe their core values. And everybody is different when you put it based on their private experiences. All the values sound pretty good, but there are some that really resonate. And I feel like if you could do the research and group, you know, people's values, I feel like there are certain values that allow people to very easily stay and be happy in a stage 3 faith. I mean, it works based on their values.
And find real happiness.
And 100%. And I feel like there's also a very large combination of values that then can sit very comfortably in stage 5. And it is beautiful. And with that said, I have to then admit, you know, sometimes I help people with that get to stage 4 and they do calm down, or they feel more heard or understood, and they then don't feel as bad of having been, you know, maybe had a crisis in the box, but they don't quite feel like they can make it into stage 5. And again, my job is not to tell them, no, keep going, because it's
push
like,
through, get there.
yeah, because it might be a couple of their values that are very important to them may not allow them to still kind of stay in that area. And I think that's an important part when you have somebody in your family that's gone through a faith journey or a faith crisis. And even when they hear this, sometimes I hear people that just say, okay, if I can just get them into stage 5, and it's like, well, it's wherever they end up being based on their own values.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. You're not going to get them anywhere. And that's the beauty of it. I mean, even if we got a little bit Sunday schooly, like I think you look at the gospel or religion or whatever, and it is that's the whole point of it, your spiritual journey and your spiritual growth. And
absolutely.
And I think as a partner, as a spouse, to respect that is one of the most loving things that you can do.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So, there's even I'm not trying to say this manipulatively, but I mean, sometimes if I'm speaking to somebody that really, and they admit they're having a hard time getting out of a stage 3 box, for example, that even this concept of where if someone is going to, feel like they can go back to more of, again, these sacred stories and symbols and maybe even try to put a leg back in the box, it's only going to come if it's their own process, if it's their own journey. And so sometimes when I'm sharing with somebody, because I feel like sometimes in stage 3, people want to double down on, no, I'm choosing the rule over love,
Yes.
And because they will see. And I feel like, man, again, bless your heart.
Never works.
I just have to say, if you want them to come back, whatever that looks like, it's going to be their own journey, their own process. And go back to that concept of reactance. It's not going to come from telling them what they need to do. Matter of fact, you're actually teeing it up so they'll go, oh no, I'm not,
Right. Totally. You're shooting yourself in the foot for what you actually want.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, all right, Tony. So,
that was fun. Thank you, Brannon.
So I got to ask you, and I didn't really know about this, but you're contemplating or you're in the process of creating a program.
Yeah.
For faith crisis.
Yeah, I'm halfway done actually. So I mean, I really am grateful we're talking about it, and I would love for people to, go contact me on tonyoverbay.com and just you can fill out something through my contact form of hey, I want to know more about the faith crisis program, and because I feel so passionate, as maybe you can tell about this, because I really feel like what we said earlier, it's not only necessary to be able to have a framework to communicate through this, because I know as a couples therapist that people not only get through this, but then they are more connected.
Yes.
And I think that's, and then that part we talked about earlier where, and man, heaven forbid, or bless their hearts, or all those other nice nice cliches. But if somebody gets to the wrong place and they're trying to process this, it can be a really quick exit on stage 4,
Yeah. I my wife and I would like to think we're both in a stage 5, and she's very different with her beliefs than me.
Yeah.
And we're very similar in some ways. But I just got to say that one of our greatest areas of connection is that just the deep intimacy of feeling safe to be me spiritually and her feeling safe to be her. And it's really an opportunity for real solid connection. It seems like a scary thing and a bad thing,
right.
But it can lead to something that's so good for the relationship. And can you not do like 10 sessions this week and expedite this program? Get it done.
I need your help, Brannon. Ever since we talked, I'm like, I gotta get. And that's honestly, I don't want you to edit this out because I really appreciate everything you do to humanity. But it was after we spoke. This is the first thing I started really laying out, and that was months ago, because I feel like I'm dealing with this every single day. I mean, I used to deal with this maybe once a week, and now it's 3 or 4 sessions a day. I'm dealing with this.
Well, and Tony, you got unique, specialized knowledge that I don't think. I mean, there's not a lot of trainings on this. You've just been in the trenches for a long time, dealing with it. And I think it's no wonder that you're seeing it more and more in your practice, because people are gravitating to you. And you can tell from what you just talked about that you really have outlined a process to help a couple work through this and get to kind of where I was talking about me and Jenny have gotten to.
Yeah.
So,
well, and I love you shared that. I mean, my wife and I, same thing. And it was at a very different pace, Yeah. And now and she'll say often now of like, what a better place this is. There's more love, there's more compassion, there's more empathy, there's more just like, man, tell me more. What do you think about this? And it's like, it's such a moment to connect, where in the past, these were probably scary topics where it would have felt like I didn't want to know what somebody thinks. Like, we're good, right? You know,
Fall
it's
into
like,
the box.
yeah. Oh,
Okay, Tony, we're going to run out of time, and I think
right.
I'm going to shift gears, and maybe what
Right.
we're actually doing is just kind of giving a little bit of a taste of maybe another episode we could do together.
Anytime. I love it.
Because I think the topic that I want to shift to is such a massive topic.
Okay.
And an important topic. But you just came out with a book.
Yeah.
So talk about your book and kind of some of the questions it brings up. And
no, it's so it's still hard to self-promote. I feel like but I say that although wait, I've got it right here, Brannon.
Hey, what do you know?
So the book's called, and man, I could talk for days about the even other funny things around it. It's called He's a Porn Addict Now What? An Expert and Former Addict Answer Your Questions. And so, in the cover looks like it's a brown paper bag. I thought that was pretty creative of the publisher. But the way the project came about, and I'll make it really quick, was on my podcast, I interviewed a guy named Joshua Shea, and he was a politician, ran a film festival, was a magazine editor back east, and then went through a very public arrest of being kind of caught with porn that was not legal,
right.
Porn. With that said, it wasn't child pornography, but I mean, it was like, but then he went to jail, he did rehabs, he came out and he wrote a book called The Addiction That Nobody Knows or Nobody Talks About. And so then in doing his kind of press tour, he did about 70 or 80 podcasts, TV shows, that sort of thing. And I thought it was pretty wild, but he felt like he and I had the best connection. And then he approached me with this project where he said, hey, I want to take about 70 or 80 questions, and they're about pornography addiction, compulsive sexual behavior, betrayal trauma. And he said, I want you to answer them, and I'm going to answer them. And we're not going to know what each other.
Oh, that's interesting. It
was really cool.
Yes.
So, I didn't even read it till I got the galleys or whatever the fancy words are for the stuff that you edit.
Right.
And it was fascinating. And so we have about, I think it's 8 chapters, and there's all these questions, and it's from the angle of the expert and from the addict. And his insight is incredible. And mine comes from a lot of the stuff that even maybe the passion or whatever you're hearing here, where it's about acceptance and commitment therapy. It's about EFT, it's about empathy and compassion. And so the book is done, it's done so much better than I ever thought it would. And the critical reviews have been pretty insane. You made a nice review, which I really appreciated. But I think it's because it really does address, it helps the betrayed really have a safe-ish way to see more.
Understand.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And then I think that and even better too, it helps. I've heard so many of the addicts now say, wow, I had no idea like the depth of what was going on in my spouse's mind with this. And then they have a way to kind of communicate. So yeah, so it's been a bestseller in the sexual health and recovery section for I think about 8 or 9 weeks and worldwide and stuff. So it's been wild. Yeah.
Nice, Tony. And so, we've got to talk more about this. And I notice you say the addict with quotes. I
know, right? Yes.
Yeah. And so what is porn addiction real? Now that's a huge question.
Right. And that's where I also want to be like, you go first, Brannon. But but in the book,
I want to hear what you have to say here.
And mine's out there too. Obviously it's in the book, and I just, I did a training to a bunch of a new state presidency and all the elders quorum presidents, really site presidents and bishops last week. And that was the first question asked. It was about porn addiction. And so my go-to response is, okay, it is not a clinical diagnosis. We know that. It's not in the DSM or the ICD. You can tie it into impulse control disorder or those kind of things. But there isn't a porn addiction diagnosis. And so I feel like I just want to help. I want to help the person. And there are people that want I'm an addict, and they want to then say, okay, that makes sense to me. That's why, and there are other people that are like, I don't want the label. I am not an addict. And I feel like, and I don't know, where you're at with this, but for me in my office, I'm like, whatever we want to call it, we can call it. If we don't want to call it, I just want to help, because I think sometimes that stigma around is it or is it not just becomes part of the stuff that the muck that people get clouded up on, and it goes, it's not helping the person move forward.
I couldn't agree with you more, Tony.
Okay, good.
And that's always been my approach, which is it's kind of, in some ways, it's important, and sometimes people want to say, I want to be able to label this, but it's really not that important. What I care about is, like you say, getting them unstuck, and what's driving the addiction, or if we call it an addiction or whatever, is shame. And so when we can get down to the shame of it and really get to those core beliefs, that's where we can do some good work. And we could really get in a discussion here, but last week I was talking to this guy, and he's like, I saw a sexual billboard, and I thought a sexual thought, so I had a relapse. So I told my wife, and so he showed up as if like this massive relapse that we saw this billboard. And to me, it's almost more like anxiety or OCD about his sexuality as opposed to an addiction. He's calling it an addiction. Regardless, whether it's addiction, whether it's OCD, he's showing up in a ton of shame with his wife. He's creating disconnection because he's really resonating in fear and shame in his life. And so I'm trying to help him get unstuck from that shame. And so, I totally agree with you. It, what we call it, is it real? Is it not real? It help people move forward. That's the whole point, right?
And I love it, right? And once you get to that point, then, I mean, and I know since we do this on a daily basis, then that isn't as intense of an argument, or, sometimes even clients come in and they want to argue with you, or a spouse wants to argue, or that, and it's like, hey, all right, I feel like that's one of those, you drop the rope in the tug of war, it's like, okay, well, sure, we won't call it that, or okay, we can call it that, whatever you want to do.
Right. I'm not going to push back. Let's move forward.
Yeah. Because the pushing back, I think, is ultimately them wanting to say, I don't know, that, see, something's wrong with me, or you don't get it, or whatever. And it's like, no, that's the crud that's got us here. Let's drop all that.
Right. Yeah. All right, Tony, we're gonna talk more about this maybe on another episode, but
that'd be fun.
I'm gonna force you to self-promote a little bit.
You're breaking up.
Mostly because it's good for my audience, because you have awesome content. So you got your podcast. And
the virtual couch.
Couch. So check that. Is it at thevirtualcouch.com, or?
You know what's funny? I don't know why it's because you're a therapist, you're bringing all this out of me. I literally just finally got the virtualcouch.com URL back last night. I had to buy it.
Oh, nice.
So I had to go with the virtualcouch.xyz, which is just, it sounds like I'm making a joke. So so it's linked off of TonyOverbay.com. So you can
TonyOverbay.com. Okay.
Yeah.
So can they find your book there? The podcast?
Yeah. And the book, I mean, it's on Amazon. I'd never been an author before, and Amazon is so fun. They send these little things that say, hey, you're number one in Australia. Hey, you're number one in France, or it's a trip. You want to know a fun fact, by the way? And this is going to sound like a humble brag or flexing, as the kids call it these days. So my co-author sent something, and he's like, hey, today we just hit 30,000, number 30,000 sales rank on Amazon. And my first thought was, I don't know if that's good or bad, And so you log into your little Author Central thing, and it says, 30,000 out of 8 million books. So I'm
nice job,
that's
Tony.
pretty good, right?
That's
and then later
awesome.
on in the day, then it was down to 20,000. But then the next day it's up to 100,000. But I mean, I'll take it.
That's awesome.
It means it's getting out there. And a quick funny story. So my publisher was not necessarily interested in an ebook at first. Mm-hmm. And they were like, no, the hard copy is going to outsell the ebook. Trust me. And I'm like, I don't think everybody wants, he's a porn addict laying around on their coffee table. Right. So then she was so nice and said, okay, let's expedite the ebook process. And so the ebook is done extremely well. So anybody listening, there's a paperback, there's a hard copy, and then there's the ebook. And I think the ebook is, I get it.
Nice. Yeah. All right, you guys. Thank you, Tony. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Brannon. This is so fun.
Yeah. And I just want to say, if you like this episode, please share it. I know what we talked about. So many people are in the thick of it in their relationship. So share it with anybody you think it will be helpful. Please go rate and review the podcast. And this isn't last. You'll see Tony. So if I can get him to come back over and over again,
thanks, Brannon.
I will. So yeah, thanks.
And you're going to come back and do another one on mine. Thanks, Brannon.
Anytime.